Hello, it's Friday. It's way past lunchtime, but it is live with Laura. I just made that up. That's not what it is at all. I'm going to be talking about boundaries today because boundaries have come up a lot lately. I've had a lot of discussions around boundaries lately, so I thought I'd just have a little chat about boundaries. But before I do, I'm going to quickly introduce myself because we've got new members who don't know me from Adam. I'm Laura with the frizzy hair today. It's very frizzy, isn't it? Did you ever watch the Teletubbies? Where am I going? Where am I going with this? I'm live, for God's sake. Teletubbies, the bear with the brown fuzzy hair. I am the bear with the brown fuzzy hair. I hide over here and I hide over there. This isn't a good introduction, or maybe it is. So I'm Laura, I'm a burnout coach, and I work with leaders, disruptors, change makers who are affecting change in the world, and might need a little bit of help with the old well-being, self-care, self-compassion, self-kindness, that sort of thing. So today, as I said, I'm going to talk about boundaries, not about Teletubbies. So how are you at setting your boundaries? By the way, if you're watching this as catch up, could you just put a little hashtag? So get that hashtag catch up. No, hashtag replay, whatever you like. Just say you're catching up so that I know that you've watched it. So how are you at setting and holding boundaries? I used to be terrible at holding boundaries, absolutely terrible at it. And often when you are the sort of person that likes to look after other people and put yourself at the bottom of the pile, very often we can be a little bit terrible when it comes to holding boundaries because we want to help people and we want people to feel better about themselves and all of that sort of thing. And it doesn't necessarily work so well if you don't have strong boundaries. Now, I've learned this over time. My boundaries are good now. I have good boundaries, I think. So you'll often find you might be really good in one area of your life with your boundaries and you might be really terrible in another area. So for example, you could be like really, really hot on your boundaries at work, and in the workplace, everybody knows where they are with you. It's so easy. Know where we are, I've got boundaries. But then in your romantic life, it might be completely different. It might be, where are the boundaries? I don't know where the boundaries are. Or in relationships or within families, particularly, very often boundaries can get foggy as hell. So you know, we can't be perfect everywhere. But what the good news is if you've got boundaries in one area of your life, then you can use that in every area of your life. So I'm just going to go through boundaries a little bit today. I'm going to be your boundary fairy. So here we go. Physical, emotional, psychological, and spiritual boundaries. Those are the different types of boundaries, and they can be external or internal. So external boundaries would be things like physical space, time, how much you spend on something, whatever. Those are your external boundaries. And then you've got your internal boundaries, which are much more about your beliefs and your values. And you'll really, really notice these when somebody crosses the line when it comes to your beliefs and your values. Oh my goodness, don't you feel that as an emotional response? Probably feel it in your body as well. So physical boundaries are about, you know, your physical limits, basically. So your personal space, how much time you spend with someone, you know, right down to physical touch, like allowing people into your space. So we all have them, right? We all have these boundaries. You'll start to recognize them as we go through. Whether you speak your boundaries out loud is another question, but they are there. Your emotional boundaries, we're talking about emotional energy here. So this is where we have to be really honest about our feelings and our needs, and whether we're being responsible or not for other people's feelings. So very often somebody else can bring their crap basically into your space. Do you have boundaries about that? Do you allow people to bring their emotional baggage into your space? If so, great. For how long? Where's the boundary? Where's the cutoff? And do you say no to emotional demands? We all find it difficult sometimes saying no. But Yeah, so that's emotional. And then let's just look at psychological. Psychological boundaries are the ones that I probably discuss most with my clients, which is, how much are you willing to tolerate other people's behaviours? So if those behaviours are hurting you in terms of your self-esteem or your confidence, is that okay? Is it not okay? Where is the line? How much do you engage yourself? Like, these are boundaries that just me. I have my own boundaries with myself around, for example, negative self-talk. How much of that am I going to allow myself to listen to? That, that little voice. I've even got boundaries there. So I've got boundaries within. And then obviously protecting yourself from things, from triggers. So as a good example of that for me would be, I cannot watch anything on television that has anything to do with children getting harmed. It triggers me. So I don't do it. That's one of my boundaries. The television gets turned off or turned over if something comes on. So signs then that it's time to set your boundaries, really, really simple. Are you feeling overwhelmed and burnt out? If the answer is yes, have a look at your boundaries. Where are they? Are they strong? And sometimes we have to put more boundaries in place. So for example, when I had anxiety and depression, my boundaries were really, really strict around. I mean, my phone was in a drawer. I didn't even have my phone. It was just in a drawer. So that was a boundary for me, was that like nothing's coming in. Thank you very much, because I can't manage it. So we change our boundaries as well. That's really important too, that we enable ourselves to be able to do that. So if you're feeling overwhelmed and burnt out, have a look at your boundaries. Do they need to change? Do they need to protect you more? Are you feeling resentment towards other people? That could be a really good little red flag. Why am I feeling resentful? Is it because I'm not communicating what I need? Am I not communicating where we stop this? Yeah. So resentment's a really good indication that we might need to look at boundaries. Feeling guilty about saying no, or feeling guilty about holding a boundary, can indicate that you're not great at boundaries. If you're feeling guilty about it all the time that you do it, then you just might need to push through and practice. So fear will always be there. Okay, I'm getting on a tangent talking about fear, but fear will always be there. Whatever you do, fear will pop up its ugly head constantly. And the trick is to put fear in the passenger seat, because it's not driving. Okay, so sometimes we need to do things that are difficult, that make us feel fearful, but we need to do them anyway when it's good for us. And holding boundaries is extraordinarily good for us. And then finally, well, not finally, there's two more actually. Anxiety and stress is another one. So thinking about, if you're anxious and stressed, thinking about something in the future, which may involve other people, situations or people, then that might be a really good indication that that anticipation of it is causing you stress. Then it's very probable that there may be some issues around boundaries there. So have you been really clear about what you want out of the situation, what's okay for you and what's not okay for you? So you can see how boundaries will not only help in the moment when you're with the people or in the situation, but also it clears that mind clutter when we're thinking about it in the future. I mean, we could have something happening in our calendar in 2 weeks' time. If it's taking up space in my head, I need to do something about that. And then finally, a loss of self-identity. And I see this sometimes where we are so focused on meeting the needs of everybody else that we start to lose our sense of self. Who am I? What am I doing here? What's this about? Because we're so busy looking after everybody else constantly without any boundaries to that. You're saying yes all the time. You're turning up when people ask you to. You're responding when people are saying, please, could you help with this? This is all lovely and it's great to be a really helpful person. But we can't keep doing that without burning out. It just doesn't happen. We have to have some boundaries around that. So if you want to, there's specific people in your community or your family who need your help, then put some boundaries around it. Okay, 2 hours a week I will dedicate to helping, and make that your boundary. So how do we even set boundaries? How do we even begin? Well, first of all, the biggest part is identifying them. Because like I said to you, they will actually be there. They'll be there. It's just that you're not acknowledging them and saying them out loud. So think about what makes me feel comfortable, what makes me feel uncomfortable in any given situation. Those are your boundaries. Those things that make you feel uncomfortable, it's totally okay to say that's not for me. So an example of that might be my husband loves thrash metal. Okay, so if he's cooking, he might put that on. That's great, but I don't want to be downstairs while that's happening. That's my boundary. So if he wants help with cooking, we'll put something else on. That's where we start to negotiate our boundaries as well. So like, okay, that's not okay for me, but what would be? What would be all right? That's a really, really funny one to use. Communicate your boundaries. Okay, so communicate, because how on earth is anyone ever going to be able to not step over your boundaries if we don't know what they are? And it's actually so helpful. I really like boundaried people because I know exactly what's okay and what's not okay. There's no second guessing. I don't have to worry about it. I don't know if you feel the same. Having gone through experiences in life where I have really wanted to support, help everybody and please everybody, which is, by the way, totally impossible. When you have somebody who is like, well, this and this is okay, but that is not okay, I know how to be in that situation. And everyone's the same. Give people boundaries and generally they'll work with them. There are people, of course, I warn you, who will push your boundaries. And sometimes that's a reason for us not to have boundaries, isn't it? Because if someone's constantly pushing them, then we constantly have to be having really difficult conversations. Excuse me, but you just did the thing that I asked you not to do. That's a bit, isn't it, having that conversation? So what's the alternative? We let it go. We let them push through the boundaries. And in any situation in life, very often we'll take it to the point where if we're at a crossroads and if we go in this direction, it hurts. And if we go in this direction, it hurts. That's why as humans, we wait and wait and wait and wait and wait until a situation gets so terrible that we can't keep going forward. We have to go that way or that way. And both of those ways hurt. And I recognise that in boundaries. But if we have the boundaries in place way before that, makes all the difference to our mental health. So enforce your boundaries consistently and take action when they're crossed. If somebody crosses your boundary, then you need to say, and it's okay, it's all right to say it. It's okay to say, that's not for me. Thank you very much. As hard as that is, it's okay. Take it from me. So go and think about what is comfortable, what's uncomfortable, where are there no boundaries when there need to be boundaries, where are there boundaries that need to move because you're not comfortable with where they are. Do a little bit of a boundary audit. That's from me, the boundary fairy. Enjoy. And finally, this is where I should do this. And finally, just to let you know that my Restore program, which I am so excited about, which starts in May, is now taking enrolment. So if you want to talk to me about that, it's a 6-month program. It's a group program. It uses my Restore method, which is everything from reboot, reset, evaluate, time audits, opening your heart, self-compassion, self-healing, looking at triggers, creating your own plan, and looking at energy management, all tied into one, but working in this beautiful group of people. And if you want to do that, can you DM me so I can chat to you? There are limited places. I would love to have you on the course. This is going to be amazing, and I'm not going to be doing this course at the same price ever again, because this is the first time that I've run it as the Restore method. Those of you that have gone through Juggling Happy, it's very similar, but it's got some beautiful things that I've put in that's going to be great. So I really genuinely am incredibly excited about it. So if you fancy it, can you DM me so we can have a chat about it? That'd be amazing. Or if you know someone, if you know a leader who would benefit, let them know. Bye. Great weekends and all that.